Hello and welcome to Calm Coding. This is the show where we try to step away from all the panic scrolling that, usually defines the cybersecurity news cycle. We take a deep breath and we actually try to figure out what's going on behind the headlines. I'm your host.
And I'm here to, hopefully, provide some of those answers, or at least help us navigate the noise. It's good to be here.
When we sit down to do this, I usually expect chaos. I expect stories about systems crashing, random hackers breaking things just to see if they can, or,
Wow.
I don't know, some new virus spreading like wildfire. But looking at the stories we have today, the theme feels different. It feels uncomfortably organized.
That is a very sharp observation. Yeah, if I had to put a label on this week's news, I'd probably call it the industrialization of access. We aren't really seeing random vandalism anymore. We're seeing business models, customer service guarantees, and massive government contracts.
It's almost like the line between a legitimate software company and a cybercriminal enterprise is getting a little blurry, at least in how they operate. They both have marketing departments now.
Exactly. It's the professionalization of the bad guys and the, aggressive expansion of the good guys. It is becoming an industry in the truest sense of the word.
Well, let's lay out the roadmap for today. First, we're going to look at a Russian threat actor who isn't just selling malware. They're selling a customer service guarantee to get that malware into the Google Chrome store.
Which is just wild.
Then we have to have a serious talk about WinRes and Microsoft Office, because apparently the software we ignore the most is what wants to hurt us the most.
The ghosts of software past. They always come back to haunt us. It's a classic problem.
Indeed. We're also looking at a huge data breach at Nike that completely defies the usual ransomware playbook. And finally, we're heading over to the UK to look at a £250 million deal between Palantir and the UK Ministry of Defence. A deal that has a lot of people asking some pretty tough questions.
It's a packed agenda for sure, and the connections between these stories are more significant than they might seem at first glance.
Okay, let's start with a browser. I think for most people, the Chrome Web Store is what's a safe haven, right?
Yeah.
You just assume if Google allowed an extension in, it's been vetted, it's clean.
That trust is exactly what's being monetized. The reality is the Chrome store is a marketplace, and like any massive marketplace, it has a back door if you know who to go.
And this brings us to Stenley.
Right, Stenley. This is a threat actor, likely Russian, who's operating on the dark web. But they aren't just selling code, they're selling a service. They're like a gateway agency.
So wait, let me get this straight. If I'm a malware developer, I don't have to figure out how to trick Google myself. I just hire Stenley.
Precisely. Stenley offers a guarantee. You pay them, and it is not cheap. We're talking anywhere from $2,000 to $6,000. And they guarantee your malicious extension will bypass Google's moderation and land in the official store.
Wow. $6,000 seems like a really steep price for a Chrome extension. What does that tell us about the market?
It tells us everything. Criminals are rational. If they're willing to pay $6,000 up front, it means the return on investment, the money they make from, stealing your crypto or your bank login is way, way higher than that. It signals this is a high-yield attack.
So let's walk through it. The malware gets in. I'm a regular user. I download some, crypto price tracker extension. It looks legit. What happens next?
So this is the clever part. The malware is dormant. It doesn't do anything suspicious right away, which helps it beat Google's automated scanners. It just waits.
Waits for what?
It waits for you to visit a specific high-value target. Let's use Coinbase or Binance as examples.
Okay, so I type Coinbase.com into my browser. I'm going to check my balance.
You type it in, the URL bar says Coinbase.com, the little SSL padlock is there, everything looks perfect. But the extension detects that URL and triggers what's called a full-screen iframe.
A full-screen iframe. Okay, break that down for us. What is that?
Think of it like a movie set. You're standing on a street and you see a building that looks real, but it's just a painted facade dropped right in front of the actual building. The extension overlays a fake login page perfectly on top of the real website.
The URL bar hasn't changed.
No, because your browser is technically still on the real site. The extension is just painting over the content window. So you see the login box, you type in your username and password, and you think you're logging into Coinbase, but you're actually typing directly into the attacker's database.
That is terrifyingly simple. We spend years training people. Check the URL, check the URL. And this just Completely nullifies that advice.
It does. It completely weaponizes your trust in the interface.
Yeah.
And they add social engineering on top. These extensions can send push notifications that look exactly like Chrome's system alerts.
Oh, no.
So you'll get a pop-up that seems to be from the browser saying, "Session expired, please log in again." It borrows Google's authority to trick you.
So if the URL bar is useless and the notifications are fake, how do we actually defend against this?
For the average person, it is really difficult. The security researchers at Varonis who analyzed this, they basically said the only bulletproof method for companies is strict allow listing.
Which is the IT equivalent of, you can't play with any toys unless I personally inspect them first?
Exactly. Block all extensions by default. Only allow the ones IT has vetted. It's a huge headache for productivity, and users hate it, but it works.
And for people listening who aren't running a corporate IT department,
You have to audit your digital life. Go to your extension settings right now. Do you have things installed you haven't used in 6 months? Delete them. And look at the permissions. Does a simple calculator really need permission to read and change data on all websites?
that's the huge red flag.
That is the massive blinking red flag. If the permissions don't match the function, get rid of it.
It's a good reminder that free extensions are rarely actually free. You're paying with access. Speaking of things we install and just forget about, let's talk about the cockroaches of the software world.
I assume you mean WinRAR.
I do. I feel like WinRAR has been on every computer I've ever owned since like 1999. I didn't even know you could update it. I thought it just existed in a perpetual state of asking me to buy a license.
And that complacency is exactly why it's a target. WinRAR is ubiquitous, but nobody thinks about maintaining it. And right now, there's a critical vulnerability, CVE 2025-A088, that you really need to pay attention to.
How severe are we talking?
It's an 8.4 out of 10. That's high. And the actors exploiting it aren't just kids in a basement. We have Romcom, a group aligned with Russian interests, and we're seeing Chinese state-sponsored actors using it too.
So the big players.
When nation-states start using a vulnerability, you know it's reliable.
How does the hack even work? WinRAR just opens ZP files. How does that compromise a computer?
It uses a feature of the Windows file system called alternate data streams, ADS for short.
ADS.
Yeah. Think of a file like a physical book. The main data is the text on the pages. That's what you see. ADS is like taping a secret invisible envelope to the back cover. Windows knows it's there, but you don't see it when you just open the book.
Okay, so I download a ZIP file, I extract it.
You extract it, and you see a decoy file, a PDF, an image, something harmless. You open it, nothing weird happens. But in the background, the extraction process used those alternate data streams to silently drop a malicious script onto your hard drive and run it.
So the decoy distracts me while the malware is setting up shop in the background.
Exactly. And because WinRAR doesn't have an auto-update feature, millions of people are just sitting on vulnerable versions right now.
That's the real kicker, isn't it? Chrome updates itself, Windows updates itself, WinRAR just waits for you to care.
You have to manually go to the website, download version 7.13 or newer, and install it. If you haven't, you are vulnerable. It requires active participation, which is always the weakest link.
Okay, so that's one manual update. But we have another, and this one involves the software that actually runs the corporate world, Microsoft Office.
Yes, and this one is arguably more urgent because it was a 0-day.
And just to clarify, 0-day means the hackers found it and were using it before Microsoft even knew about it, right?
Yeah. Correct. There were 0 days to fix it before it was used in real attacks. This is CVE 2026-21509.
And what's the flaw here?
It bypasses something called OLE mitigations. OLE is object linking and embedding. It's the tech that lets you, say, put an Excel chart inside a Word document. It allows documents to talk to other applications.
And I'm guessing this vulnerability lets them talk to applications they really shouldn't be talking to.
It lets an attacker execute code just by you opening a file. No macros needed, no enable content buttons to click. Just open the file and the payload runs.
That's the nightmare scenario. We always tell people, don't enable macros. If this bypasses that, user training just goes out the window.
Completely. Now, the good news is, if you are on Office 365 or Office 2021, the subscription versions, you're probably okay. Microsoft pushed a server-side fix. You just need to restart the app.
But
there's a huge part of the world still running Office 2016 or 2019, the perpetual licenses. Those regions do not get that server-side fix. You have to install a specific security update.
and if you can install the update for some reason,
Then you have to edit the Windows registry.
which is like performing open heart surgery on your operating system. One typo and your computer doesn't boot.
It is risky. But leaving a zero-day vulnerability open is definitely riskier.
It really highlights a shift, doesn't it? The subscription model, which everyone complains about paying for, actually saved the day here.
It did. Security is becoming a subscription service. Whether we like it or not, disconnected software is becoming dangerous software.
All right, let's pivot from the software on our desktops to the brands in our closets. Nike.
The WorldLeaks breach. Yes.
This story caught my eye, not because of the size. I mean, 1.4 terabytes is a lot, but we see that all the time. But because of what didn't happen. This wasn't ransomware, was it?
No, and that's the critical distinction here. Usually we hear breach, we assume encryption, we assume Nike's screens went red and someone demanded $50 million in Bitcoin.
But that didn't happen. Nike just kept operating.
Business as usual. The group, calling themselves WorldLeaks, they simply stole the data, they copied it, and they left.
So what did they actually get?
Well, they published directory names to prove they had access. We're seeing folders labeled women's sportswear, training resource factory, and garment making process.
That sounds like trade secrets.
It is. It's intellectual property, designs, supply chain logistics, manufacturing techniques. It does not seem to be customer credit cards or employee social security numbers.
Why the change in tactics? Isn't shutting down the company the best way to get paid?
It used to be. But the ransomware world is changing. Encryption is messy. It causes real-world damage. Hospitals stop working, pipelines shut down. And when that happens, the FBI, Interpol, they all come down on you. Hard.
So encryption brings too much heat.
Exactly. And it's technically difficult. Stealing files, that's easy. It's just copying. So groups like WorldLeaks, and we think they might be a rebrand of a group called Hunters International, are pivoting to pure extortion.
We have your secrets, pay us, or we give them to your competitor.
Or pay us, or we leak next season's designs to the counterfeiters. It's a reputation play. They're betting Nike values its competitive edge enough to pay, even if his computers are still on.
It's a cleaner crime. White-collar hacking.
It is, and it makes it harder for the victim to justify paying. If your factory is stopped, you pay to restart it. If your factory's running, do you pay millions just to keep a secret? It changes the whole calculation.
It suggests we're moving into a, post-privacy era of cybercrime, where the confidentiality of data is the only thing left to leverage.
And where the ransom is purely about silence, not restoration.
Speaking of paying for data, let's talk about the biggest check written this week.
Right.
We're going over to the UK. The Ministry of Defense just signed a massive deal with Palantir.
A huge deal, $240.6 million. That's about $330 million US dollars.
For those who don't know, Palantir is the data analytics firm, sort of the operating system for the U.S. intelligence community. But this deal in the UK is raising some serious eyebrows. Why?
Two big reasons: the process and the people. First, the process. This was a no-bid contract.
Meaning the UK government didn't ask anyone else if they could do the job. They just gave it to them.
Correct. They used a defense and security exemption, arguing that the need was too urgent or the capability was so specific to Palantir that a competition wasn't viable.
Which always sounds a little suspicious when you're talking about £250 million. What are they actually buying?
They're buying the ability to make sense of chaos. The contract is for strategic decision-making and NATO interoperability. Modern warfare just generates too much data drone feeds, satellite images, logistics reports. Palantir's software is supposed to ingest all that noise and turn it into a clear map for commanders.
So it's the brain of the military machine.
It's the connective tissue. But the controversy really deepens when you look at the revolving door.
Right. You mentioned the people aspect.
In 2025, 5 officials from the Ministry of Defense left their government jobs and then joined Palantir.
5. That's not a coincidence. That's a migration.
And one notable name is Barnaby Kistruck. He was the director of policy at the MARD. He leaves, joins Palantir, and then shortly after, Palantir lands this massive no-bid contract with his former employer.
Now, to be fair, the government has a response to this, right?
They do. They claim they conducted comprehensive due diligence and that there are strict rules about what these former officials can work on specifically to prevent conflicts of interest.
But from the outside, it just looks cozy.
It looks like a closed loop. And this isn't Palantir's only major win. They have that huge $330 million contract with the NHS, the UK's health service. They're with ICE and DHS in the US.
It really seems like Palantir is becoming the default infrastructure for Western governments.
That is their goal. They want to be the platform that the West runs on. And when you have that much entrenchment, it becomes very, very hard to ever switch vendors.
Is vendor lock-in, but on a geopolitical scale?
Precisely. The data integration is just too deep at that point.
So let's try to tie these threads together. We started with a hacker paying $6,000 to get into Chrome. We ended with the government paying $330 million to organize its secrets. Is there a through line here?
I think the through line is access as a commodity.
Explain that.
In both cases, someone is paying a premium for a streamlined path to data. The malware author pays Stenley to bypass the technical barriers of the Chrome store. The UK government pays Palantir to bypass the cognitive barriers of raw data.
So it's all about buying a shortcut to seeing what you want to see.
Exactly. And notice how the barrier to entry is lowering on the criminal side. 10 years ago, if you wanted to do something like this, you needed to be a genius. Now, you just need a credit card. You don't need skills, you need capital.
That democratization of cybercrime is...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating and terrifying. It means the threat isn't limited by talent anymore, only by budget.
And the budgets are getting bigger.
I want to leave our listeners with a thought on that Nike story. We talked about how ransomware is sort of stripping away the ransom part, the locking of files, and just focusing on the leak.
The pure extortion model.
Right. If the bad guys stop breaking our computers and just start stealing our secrets, does that make us more complacent? If business continues as usual, if the factory keeps running, do we stop caring about the breach? Are we moving to a world where we just accept that privacy is dead and we keep working anyway?
That is the dark reality we might be facing. It suggests that the integrity of systems, just keeping them running, is becoming more important than the confidentiality of the data inside them. We might be entering an era where data leaks are just seen as a cost of doing business, like a tax.
A data tax. That is a sobering thought.
It is. But until we all accept that fate, we still have to do the basics.
We do. So, listener, go check your browser extensions. If you don't know what it is, delete it, update WinRR. Seriously, go to the website and do it. And if you're on an old version of Office, patch it or upgrade it.
Don't make it easy for them.
Thanks for listening to Comm Coding. We'll see you next time. Stay safe.
Stay vigilant.